Hello everybody, welcome again to Coffee with Craig, in which I use my psychic skills to look into and give some commentary on current events and things that are happening in the world. And today I'm going to start off by talking about the future of Islam in Europe. And I'll also open it up to all sorts of other questions that you can ask me as we go through the show, which we're doing now live today on the 26th of October, 2023. Well, hi everyone. Nice to see you again. I see lots of you piling in now already on the chat bot of this YouTube, and do remember to put some comments afterwards, please, on these topics that I think concern us all. You know, some of the worrying things that are happening in the world at the moment, and I've been giving my attention and my meditations recently to what's going to be the future of Islam, particularly in Europe, because we're seeing such major serious divisions happening already around the world, and particularly a lot of those related to what's happening in the Middle East, of course, which I've predicted, if you've seen from some of my other videos. And I also have said that there'd be further increase in terrorism in the coming year 2024, and it makes you wonder, when's it all going to end? When we're going to get over all this, actually? And I think we've got another year of difficulties. I think 2025 might be a better year for us. I said that a few years back, that I saw a bit of a turning of better things in 2025. But we are still facing quite some serious problems. And my thoughts, as I've said already, is I feel that the war, what it's now become really happening in Israel, around Israel. I don't know what to call it really, because it's evolving as we speak. But it's becoming a war of ideas. It's becoming a war in many ways between religious ideas. You know, the idea that we'll drive Israel into the sea, and the Israelis would drive the people from Palestine into the desert. You know, these have been two tremendous divisions triggered by a series of dreadful terrorist attacks. So all of our conscience are torn with this on both sides of the argument. Everybody is in a state of terrible perplexion. And again, just like we're seeing in politics around the world, we seem to be seeing endless division at the moment. It's endless division, isn't it? Everywhere we look, we just see division. We see division in between left and right in politics in the UK. We see divisions between Democrats and Republicans in America. We see divisions in India between Hindus and everywhere we see in division around the world. And unfortunately, this is going to be played out in some of the areas of our own societies, I feel. Now, I'm not in any way against Islam. I must say that first and foremost, because a lot of people might become very anti-Islamic because of what's happening with the protests in the street. There were some pretty awful protests going on in Australia, I remember, in front of the Sydney Opera House. There's been some pretty awful demonstrations in the UK with shouts of sort of jihad calls, and the police not knowing quite what to do. And shockingly, which hasn't been reported much in the press, but has been reported, there's been stars of David sprayed in Berlin on shops shops owned by Jews. You know, never again, we said at the Holocaust, never again, they said in Germany, that would this ever happen. And yet here we see anti-Judaism happening, and awful divisions happening in society. And it's become, we have now so many, we have such a high level of immigration into Europe and into the UK that I read somewhere a fact that in the UK, there are more Muslims now in the UK than there are in the whole of Lebanon when you add it up. Because Lebanon used to be very high level of Christians in there, but they were driven out, really. The Christians were driven out of Lebanon. In fact, Lebanon used to be called the Paris of the Middle East because it was such a cultured and refined society. But that's kind of fallen down. Again, divisions happening, divisions between religions again, and intolerance towards one another. Can we ever get through this? Can we ever find a way of balance? Can we ever find a way where there's going to be tolerance again? This is my thought, because we have clearly, I think in Islam, I think democracy sits very difficultly with most of Islam, as far as I can see. It doesn't work well. It tends to work as an authoritarian type of religion. And just as some of the other religions, Christianity is an authoritarian type of religion, isn't it? Judaism is a authoritarian type of religion. And most of the religions of the world tend to have this, we have the answers. You must obey what we say. They always, they stir division in many ways, don't they? All of the religions. And Islam's is the same. It says, you must obey what the word of the Quran says, full stop. Extremist Christians will say you must obey everything in the Bible, full stop. And Judaism and its extremism is also exactly the same. And I think we got to try to find a balance somehow. We got to start looking for what's are common between our religions. Surely, is the only way out of this is to start looking for the things that are common between us, that we can all agree with. Because if I've read the Quran, I've read the Bible, I've read quite a lot of the Old Testament, for example. So all of the religions of the world do seem to have some common denominators, don't they? Really, and that's where I think we've got to start looking if these divisions that are happening are going to be addressed. Because I see ahead real serious problems in Europe now as conflict between Islam and other religions and our society, because I'm seeing a resistance. I'm seeing a turning against Islamic people, and Muslim people. I think this is going to be happening. I don't want to encourage this. I want the opposite, but I see it happening. I see it happening in Italy. I see it happening in Sweden. I see it happening, and it's already started in Germany, and particularly Berlin. And I see it happening in Paris too. There's going to be a backlash, because I see the war in the Middle East extending into Iran. And this is what everybody, I spoke about this a long while back. And I said it would be one of the major things for 2024. You saw my little clips that I put up yesterday, and from the past. And my thoughts are that this is going to extend into finally Iran being drawn in, and nobody's listening to Biden. Biden went over there to try to sort everything out. He wants to get the troops in. He wants to get a shield in, as it were. He wants to protect the American troops that are all over the place over the Middle East. And they're not listening to him, because they say he's not a guy that's convincing to the world. And so they're going in anyway, and they're going in today. And this first steps into going into Gaza. So I see it escalating. And if this does, what will happen here? If Europe gets involved, what will happen here? My thoughts are that what will happen here is there may even be a clampdown on Islam. In the Second World War, of course, there was internment here in the UK. Anybody that was Italian or German was packed off to the Isle of Man and put into separated. I think there might be a clampdown on a lot of religious activities of the Muslims in the coming year. I think because I see it escalating, and this escalation happens. Unfortunately, I feel that there's going to be a clampdown on things like Sharia law, for example, and things like this. And let's look again. How can we solve it? How do we go about solving this new division that I see coming, which is already kind of happening already, but I see escalating? The only way we can do it is to find first the common denominators. But first, I think on a practical sense, we must separate religion from state. It's an old idea. It's been there a long, long time. But again, we're letting it filter in that we're listening too much to religious complaints, or we're saying that this is against my religion, or that you can't do this because of my religion, or education must be changed because of my religion. We got to take that type of thing out of it. And we've got to take political ideas out of, say, for education, for example. We've got to get back to the basics. When you're doing education, it should be about education. What's education all about? About learning facts and things like that. It's also about the development of character, of becoming a good, rounded individual, not having a load of nutty people coming in and imposing their kind of oddball ideas on the kids, for example. And similarly, these extremist ideas are also in religions, aren't they, too? Religions, you can find just about anything in a religion. You can justify just about anything in all of the religions, good or bad. So what's the common denominators? What's the good things that we can pull out of them all? Well, first and foremost, all of the religions of the world say there's just one God. They seem to sort of say it's only my God, but actually they all talk about one God. So if there's one God, it's the same God for all of them, isn't it? Isn't the same God in Islam as the same God in Christianity, as the same God in Judaism, as the same God in Hinduism, as the same kind of God, although they call it Nirvana, in Buddhism and Zoroastrianism and whatever religion you can name? There's always this idea of the one God, the one Godhead. So that's surely, that's why we've got to start beginning with healing the divisions here. Let's put aside everything that's written in our books, and let's go to what we know to be true. There's one God. So surely we got to see that as one way of bringing people together. And all of the religions, okay, you put aside all of the sort of jihadi type of things, or the crusader type of things, or whatever you want to call them, the divisions of us and them sort of things. If you put all that aside, the other message of all the great teachers, all the great saints, has always been love, hasn't it? And so surely the other thing that we can say from all these religions, they all talk about love, the importance of love, and that could be the basis, could it not, of all our moral codes. People forget that in Islam, for example, there's Jesus is in Islam, and so is Mary in Islam, and so is Abraham in Islam. There isn't, these divisions are minor, really. And yet we create such big walls. So we've got to look, I think, for the common denominators. We've got to see that there's one religion, the religion of an omnipresent, all-embracing God. Not as a man in the sky God. It's behind it all. There's the one omnipresence. The one God is everywhere. That's one idea, isn't it? That could bring us together. And that all human beings are equally valuable. That's, I think, the other thing. To embrace unity within diversity. That we all have. We're all one. We're all one human race. No matter, we're all very different, which is fabulous. But we're all at heart the same one God. We are all at heart the same. So it's all universal. It could be solved so easily, I think. But of course, we're at the mercy of people who have radical, foolish ideas. And I think that with all this, we need to think about, how can we solve it? And I think the only way we're ever going to solve all these problems, which seem to be completely out of control at the moment, is got to be that each one of us has got to look to our spiritual self to see, not see enemies in other human beings, but to see other human beings there, and to see that that God is shining through all our eyes, really. Each one of us has that God spark within us. and that's the only way we're going to break it. But of course, on a practical level, when terrible things happen, like in we see terrible things happening in the Middle East, it's going to create rage in many people, and I think it's going to create rage on both sides. And so I see in Europe in the coming 2024, I'm seeing many. I said about that already, that I felt that I see them coming up quite soon. Hijacks are going to be a hijack. The guns on the street was something I was talking about as well. We've seen it, kind of another nutty bloke in America today, in Maine, shooting up people. The thing is, you get all of them come out. Do you remember when the anthrax was sent round by another group when after 9/11? So nothing to do with what was going on with Bin Laden. Now this was just, they started sending the anthrax on. This was another group. So you'll start getting all the mimics coming out. We see all the nutty people coming out. I think we'll see an awful lot more of these divisions and coming up in the future. So I thought I'd just start off talking like that, and I'll take some of your questions now and see what you have to ask. You can ask about anything you like you say. So anthrax thing was a false flag, you reckon, do you? Yeah, it could be. It could be. We did so much disinformation out there nowadays, isn't there? By with Putin, for example, did Putin really go to North Korea, or did he send his body double, and was he sick already? That's a question that some people have been asking. Missing them. I'm sorry, they move quick, and I try to click on things as I see them coming up. Yeah, love is the answer, isn't it? It's been said, love is the answer. Now, what is the question? You try apply it. You can apply that to just about every single question you could ask of things. Now, you want to ask about the Ukraine war now? Yeah, I've had some thoughts about that already, because now that's becoming a forgotten war in some respects, because our media is being dominated so much by what's happening in the Middle East. And it made me, like I said, I think there's been encouragement of these things in the Middle East by Russia. That's why it takes the eye off the ball. See what I can sense for the Middle East. I know I'll do this a little bit slower now, because I just want to get in with my guides now and see what I can start to pick up when I answer your questions now. Of course, I have some thoughts already. I think we're going to start seeing. I'm being shown here sort of boats being sabotaged. So I think we're going to see a lot more. I'm seeing divers and things like this in a bay. So I get a feeling that what's going to happen here is going to be going to see some Russian boats sunk soon. It's a sabotage, and I'm also seeing a very big bridge. Now there's that big bridge between Ukraine and Russia, isn't there? I don't know if that's what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing a bridge collapsing. Actually, the whole infrastructure of it going. Sabotage. I'm seeing sabotage in the coming weeks. I think we're going to see some big sabotage thing come up. Right. That's all I'm getting at the moment for that. Excuse me. I had COVID a while back, so I've still a bit cough from it. Yeah, but that's what I'm seeing there. Right. Okay. Yeah, I've mentioned that a number of times actually. So that's what I am seeing that that's going to be one of the main things that's going to happen here. And I think it's the reason why the Americans want to get in and hold things back, because I get the sense that they've already been told that the Israelis have said, we're going to hit more. We're going to hit them hard. If they come in from Lebanon, we're going to go right in full on with our Air Force. And I feel that's going to happen. Now, I haven't seen that, but I do remember. I remember seeing something in a thing written by Nostradamus, one interpretation of a interpretation of Nostradamus some years ago. Erica Cheetham, wasn't it, that wrote that one, I think, who said that the American fleet would be in the Mediterranean and be sunk, sinking of an American fleet in the Mediterranean. Maybe that was being seen some while ago. I haven't seen that at the moment, but so I don't know. I only can go with what I see, so I haven't seen that yet. I think the Americans are going to stay out as much as they can, but may get drawn in eventually. Let's see how it goes, because one of the other things, you know, I make predictions, but I have to remind everybody that what we're seeing, and the other psychics that post on here and put their ideas and things like that, and I'm sure you'd agree, is we see kind of the current trajectory, because we have free will. We can change the future through, because in our own independent individual futures and in the worlds as well, they're controlled partly by karma. So the karma of the world has to be unfold, but they also are controlled by our free will. So we can also change things collectively, our free will. So it doesn't mean we're hopelessly at the mercy of destiny. Something I spoke about in one of the Craig and Jane shows we did recently. Other things. Well, I have already. I'm going to make more predictions properly about the UK. I'm going to just see if I can pick a few things up, because I kind of try to get tuned in when I'm doing this, and when all your attention's on me, it pushes my guides to give me more information in a way. So it's kind of sticking my neck out doing it this way. Let's see what I can see. I get the sense in the UK, Rishi Sunak's going to go. He might even go before the next election, and that would be very unusual for that to happen. It's still a bit neck and neck. I think it's going to be absolute neck and neck in the UK elections, absolute neck and neck. And I think that's still. I think it could go either way at the moment. I feel depends what happens within the Tory party, because I see that going. I see that kind of caving in again. In the Tories, I get the feeling they're not going to be holding together to put a proper party together for an election. I think Scotland is going to go Labour. Now, here's something that's just been shown to me. I kind of mentioned before I saw London flooded. But you remember I said about New York being flooded a little while back, and it did, and that everybody sort of thought that was weird to say. Craig, that's bonkers, but that did happen. But I'm seeing also here, I'm seeing London flooded now. I get big flood, London, right? That's one near a few. That'll be presumably this winter, if that's what I'm seeing. So it's probably not 2024. It's probably coming up. Let's see what happens. No, I'm being told no. It's earlier in the year, early 2024. Early 2024. Okay, because it wouldn't. It is. Someone's saying that it would be an odd thing to happen, wouldn't it? It's got the Thames barrier and things like that, so it shouldn't happen. But that's what I'm seeing. So why could that happen? But who knows with the way the weather is at the moment, because it has floodgates. That's what I say. It's impossible. It shouldn't happen. But that's what I'm getting a feeling of. That's what I'm getting a feeling of, guys. Right. This is what I'm seeing there. Now, let me just this one there. Because this morning when I woke up, and I don't know whether this is relevant or not, but I had a dream and I saw massive earthquake, and I found it was in America. Already I saw before. How come that's going? Spam calls that should not be on. But I saw something with a call. Go away. It's not even a connected line. Joe Biden calling me again, wanting advice. Go on, shut up. It's not an actual. It's not even a proper line. Sorry, guys.
Hello. Your call can't be taken at the moment, so please leave your message after the tone.
Sorry about that. I thought I'd disconnected it. No, I did. So broken my contact. So this is the problem when you go live, guys. You know. No, I woke up this morning and I did see something. I felt as if there was going to be a really big earthquake of some sort, and I felt something was going to happen in America this year. Right. So I feel that there's some big one happening, and I don't think it's the huge Californian one, but I get the feeling that it's something that's going to be quite a high magnitude. And now my camera's gone. Are the spirit world trying to stop me here? The camera's back again. So with all that in mind, I think I don't think this would be Yellowstone, because Yellowstone would be sort of end of world sort of thing, isn't it? With that, if that ever went, it's in hundreds of thousands of years that happens. But I get a feeling there's something pretty big in 2024 for a major earthquake in America. It might also affect Mexico too, because I got a feeling I'm seeing Mexico, I'm seeing all that fault line. So it's not going to wipe everything out. It's not going to be to that level, but it's going to be I feel as there's quite a big one coming in that period. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I'm being pulled here with these problem with the camera, problem with the phone coming in there. So so that's my thoughts. I think we're going to get something like that. It's a shame I got interrupted there, because I just want to just see if I can get a little bit more of that. In fact, we're going to see there's a lot of earth activity in 2024 all over. There's lots happening with that. And although these things are not connected to climate change, because they're independent, this has nothing to do with climate change. This is the earth itself shaking, I feel. So maybe the earth reacts to our own foolishness sometimes, you know, the way the war goes and things like this. The earth is Mother Earth is saying, look, don't be such fools. But I do feel we'll get out of all this in due course, you know. I do think we'll get out of all these problems. We'll get through the whole lot in due course. We will have a better world. And I do feel, like I've said before, that we're gonna start to see an awakening. You know, sometimes it takes a lot of heavy stuff to get people to start thinking and wake up again. You know, it takes a lot of heavy stuff. And once that comes along, we can bring good out of it. You know, humankind has been here a long time. We've been here millions of years, and we've gotten to the brink many times. But somehow or other, we all seem to keep going. And we've been here long enough for consciousness to be able to be channeled through a human body, you know. And so I think there's a long time hence we're going to be here. So we're not going to get any ends of the worlds, but I feel that we're going to get a re-look at things as time goes on. We're going to start to see things with a new form of awareness. We're going to be more awake individuals. And the whole idea, what is a human being once they become fully awake? When you look at things such as the great teachers that have been in the world, when you look at things such as the great masters that have walked this earth before, is that not something that all of us could become? Are these not examples of the possibilities of what humans can become? You know, I think we have, each of us, absolutely amazing superpowers. You know, these things that we do with psychic stuff and that are absolutely just grains of sand. They're just tiny little bits. But I think in the longer term future, things like telepathy will be taken for granted. Things such as being able to understand the nature of time and what has been and is to come will be seen in a different way. We will live in a different way, outside of the sort of normal limits of time that we have now. We will have capabilities that are unquestionably going to become seem extraordinary to us today. This is what is ahead, and it takes a lot of struggle to get there. It's taken evolution to create this body, and this is kind of part of our spiritual evolution. Anyway, sorry about the interruptions today, guys. I'm also doing Coffee with Craigs occasionally on the on the patrons channel if you want to join that, and also my new workshops that have just been advertised on my website are going to be of this nature, where you can do it like a coffee with Craig, where you can ask me questions and you can ask my spirit guides more personal questions too. So have a look at those on the website if you're interested in what I do on this channel. Okay, well, good to see you all. Thanks for joining us. See you soon. Bye for now. If you look back at my earlier predictions, and in particular the predictions I made on the newspaper, the Sun's website, I did actually say on there, the actual words were, there will be a flu epidemic linked to bioterrorism. And my thoughts are that Liz Truss will make it to the final, be the next PM. I think she will actually have a final battle between her and Rishi Sunak. We've not seen the full end of Boris Johnson either, I tell you. But Rishi Sunak actually will eventually, I feel, be the next leader of the Conservatives. So I think there's going to be a few conflicts that Britain's going to be drawn into, including I think Russia is going to take some moves against Ukraine. I think she will make it past her platinum jubilee, which comes up this year. But I think after that, we'll see a sudden and quick deterioration in the Queen's health. And I think we might lose the Queen towards the end of 2022. There's going to be a huge backlash from over the Netflix programs and screening, because I feel it comes out at a bad time. Charles will come to become King Charles, but his reign, I feel, will be short. And funnily enough, actually, another royal prediction came true only yesterday, which surprised me really, because it was such a weird prediction I'd made. I predicted in my earlier videos from 2021 for 2022 that the king, I said Prince Charles at the time, because he wasn't actually king at that time, but I said that Prince Charles would be hit by an egg. And of course, there it is, all in the press today.